The following is a presentation from PokerStars.com. Previously on the Big Game, loose cannon Russ Harlow went all in against legend Phil Hellmuth.
You got an 8?
Yeah.
I got a 10 kicker.
And found himself on the brink of going home.
Let's get it over with.
But a miracle river not only gave him life,
Oh my God.
but also a profit.
That's fine.
Sick.
It's been a week of big pots,
Come on.
crazy cards,
I'm getting run over here.
and plenty of fireworks.
What a bad beat that is.
See what happens next, tonight on the Big Game.
This is the PokerStars.com Big Game.
Welcome once again to the Big Game from Las Vegas, Nevada. Alongside Joe Stapleton, I'm Chris Rose, and tonight, some of the best players on the entire planet are battling it out in our state-of-the-art poker room. There's already more than $1.1 million on the table.
A big chunk of that sits in front of our big winner, Jason Mercier, who continues his hot run, starting today's session up over $156,000.
Meanwhile, the other young pro at the table, Ike Haxton, started with $150,000. He's at 149. I'll save you the math. He's down $1,000.
Tony G bought in for a big game record-setting $500,000, but he stuck 10% of that, just around $50,000.
The magician, Antonio Esfandiari, has some catching up to do. He's stuck over $123K.
This week's loose cannon is Russ Harlow. He's 39 years old from Manchester, Connecticut. He's married with 3 kids and drives a delivery truck on the graveyard shift. He's currently up $22,500.
And the final seat belongs to the poker legend himself, Phil Hellmuth. He was up early in the week, but now finds himself down $7K. He is with Amanda Leatherman.
All right, Phil, it's been a rocky week for you so far. Up and down and up and down, but you seem to be keeping your composure out there. Is this a new Phil we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm struggling a little bit to keep my composure right now because, twice when I actually had hands, I got unlucky.
Yeah.
And when I didn't have hands, I picked up all these free chips, so it's kind of aggravating. But you have to keep your head up and play.
Well, we all love watching you and Tony G out there going back and forth, but how does it feel to be out there?
It really is nice. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, it really is. I mean, come on. I mean, you get to play in a 2 and 400 blind, no limit game with 100,000 in front of you. I mean, we're very blessed people to be able to risk that kind of money just in a poker game. And so, I'm thankful for that, and I'm ready to play.
All right, good luck.
Thanks, girl.
Once again, each loose cannon's been staked $100,000 and keeps all winnings above the initial $100,000. The loose cannon who wins the most money at season's end earns a North American Poker Tour passport worth $50,000.
Right now, the leading loose cannon is single mom Nadia Magnus, who walked away with almost $64,000.
Russ trails her by about $40,000. He still has a couple days to try and catch up. Ike looking at King Jack to get us started. Raises. Mercier folds. Fills out.
I'm out.
So's the cannon, as is Antonio. Ace Jack suited for Tony G.
Tony's ace is big, it's suited, and he's got Ike dominated.
He calls.
Tony will be out of position for this hand.
8-5-10 on the flop. Tony G checks.
Tony's got the best hand with ace high.
Ike checks. Queen of hearts on the turn. Tony G checks a gut shot.
Ike's now open-ended.
And he's aggressive, betting $3,000. Tony calls. The river makes Tony straight.
It also makes top pair for Ike, which could be trouble for him.
Tony slow plays it with a check.
Tony's hoping Ike has something he can bet with. Tony has the nuts. Let's see if Ike falls into the trap.
Haxton looks like he's going to fire again. This time 7,200.
Ike might think top pair is good. No reason for Tony not to raise with the nuts.
And Tony does raise to 30,000.
Tony's got the reputation of a maniac, but in the big game, we've mostly seen him bomb the river when he's got it.
But does Ike know that?
Call.
Ike calls and sees the bad news.
That's the benefit of having the reputation of a maniac, or the detriment of not TiVoing the big game.
Once again, here are the rules of the big game. Each table lasts exactly 150 hands. The action pre-flop is pot limit, then no limit after the flop. Blinds are 2 and 400 with a $100 ante, all of which is paid by the player on the button. And every player begins with at least $100K, but can reload for up to $500,000.
Tony G's the first player to ever buy in for $500,000. I wonder who the next will be.
Jason Mercier folds. Phil, 9, king. Raises to $2,000. The cannon folds. So does Antonio.
I was calling.
Tony G calls.
If you bet the flop, then you might probably get it all in.
Suited connectors for Ike.
Call.
Calls.
There we go, Phil. 2 value punters.
Well said. No one's hand is all that big of a favorite.
Trey 9. Haxton's hand is a huge favorite now. Tony G checks on over to Ike.
A bet here would do some good for Ike, especially since we know Phil hit top pair.
Haxton leads out for 4,400. Phil calls.
It's a pretty standard call for Phil. He just got kind of unlucky here.
Tony folds. So heads up to the turn, which is a deuce of clubs.
No help to either player, but if Ike fires again, he can make it look like he's two-barreling a bluff or a flush draw. Phil could really get into some trouble here if he's not careful.
Haxton fires 24,000.
Ike's done something pretty interesting here. He's overbet the pot in order to try to make this look like a desperate bluff. It's a pretty big bet to call with a pair of 9s.
But Phil does it.
Ike's master plan working out perfectly so far.
10 of spades on the river.
I don't see Ike letting Phil have a very cheap showdown here.
All in.
He makes it the priciest one possible.
How much?
Got you covered.
Why 24,000 on the turn?
Ike set this bet up with that huge bet on the last street.
Value.
Huh?
Value.
He might have 3-4 spades.
Heck of a guess.
I thought I was bluffing, but
Ike's trying to lead Phil down the primrose path.
Wow. Well, I'll lay this hand down. Honestly, I have no idea. God, every time I get ready to fold, I think you're going to show me a bluff.
Phil's deliberating quite a bit, but he doesn't even have top pair anymore.
Phil folds.
I think you got bluffed out. Bluffed out. 100,000, I'll bet you. Got bluffed out.
no, let's hold on to these then.
Can I see the hand? Can I pay and see?
Yeah, absolutely.
500?
Oh, it's just 500. 3-4 suited. That was the hand I was worried about.
That make you feel good?
I might as well just quit. I mean, every time they flop
Genius,
me a
Phil.
big hand,
You're an absolute genius. Well done, Phil.
Being a genius doesn't feel nearly as good as stacking chips.
The big game is just getting going. Much more from Las Vegas coming your way after this.
What's up with Tony G and I? I'm going to ask him if he knows the song Where Is to Love and see if maybe that helps a little bit.
Last time I played, me and Phil Hellmuth had a real hit out together. We had a lot of fun.
Now, you want to make fun of me? That's fine. You want to make fun of me? That's fine. He is an instigator, and sometimes I take the bait.
He wants to be a superstar, and he's pretending to be one. He's making himself believe that he is, but the results speak for themselves.
I'm an easy target because I'm out there, you know, taking a few swings myself, talking about I'm great, blah, 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 and then people are like, did he just say he's great? I think I'm going to smack him.
Well, Phil Hellmuth puts himself up very high, and he's telling everybody how good he is and how dumb and silly they are.
I mean, I think you're going to see that Tony G is going to deliberately try to go after me and deliberately try to make me go on tilt.
When we headed off tonight with Phil Hellmuth, I'm going to go the same way. I'm going to go hard. Going to do everything I can on the poker table to humiliate him, and getting carried out on his bike, leaving the establishment, never coming back to play with me.
Look, I hate to show the seams, but all that's just an act for TV. The two of them go to Pilates together every Sunday.
Tony, I will say this about you. You're really, really good at like waiting until someone loses a big pot and then just rubbing it in.
Thank you.
I think that's like...
You gotta be good at something.
People do that. I think people do that, and I think people do that in life. It's like you like to kick people when they're down. Is what you like to do.
I don't want to kick people. This is just a game, Phil. I don't want to kick anyone. This is a game on TV.
That's precisely what you're doing. You're
Phil,
kicking me
you're
when I'm
lining
down.
yourself up as the best poker player in the world. You're coming on national television.
Yeah, I know.
Phil, I didn't say you're the best. You're the one saying all the time and abusing players during poker tournaments. You abuse people in a significant, nasty manner.
When's the last time you heard me abuse anybody at a poker
Last
table?
time. Well,
Cannon raises.
it's just a game, Phil. It's nothing personal. I mean, I just love the...
I just pointed out what you're doing, and for some reason you got all sensitive.
You
I
put
don't
yourself
know why.
up.
Tony calls.
You put yourself up as a...
There's about 10% of the audience that's watching loves to see you kick me when I'm down. And about 20% thinks...
I'll bet it's over 10.
Okay, let's say that 30% loves it. Okay. And then there's about 30% that hates it. And then 40% thinks it's kind of entertaining, but they lose a little respect for you.
I think your numbers are off.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that breakdown.
I think 90% enjoy watching it, and a significant amount agree with you that the last part that you said is probably true as well. But all in all, everybody enjoys watching it. I'm enjoying listening to it.
Most
I'm
important,
right
Phil, I absolutely enjoy doing it to you. That's what's important, isn't it?
See, that I appreciate.
Hopefully he can also appreciate that there's a game going on here. Jason Mercier has both Tony and the loose cannon in bad shape. Russ has got a very strong hand in his own right, and it could be danger.
Raise the pot.
Harlow re-raises to 24 grand.
Russ has just put in a fourth bet on this hand.
But it's definitely not personal. I really respect you as a person.
Tony folds.
And as a human being, as a family man, I respect you a lot. I think you're out of line with the way you perceive yourself as a poker player, and I think you're wrong.
Will we see a fifth bet from Jason?
Anyway, let's move on to the next part. You're getting dribbled away. That's the main thing. You're getting abused.
All of a sudden, there's a whole lot of money in the middle.
Yeah. This is fun.
Jason's trying to figure out the best way to get the rest of the money into the middle.
Mercier re-raises to 51,000.
Jason's just made a bet for half of Russ's entire stack. He's min-raising because he doesn't want Russ to fold, and he could maybe even induce a shove.
27,000 more.
Jason's got the pre-flop nuts, so right now he's basically turning Russ upside down for his lunch money. Even if Russ recognizes it, he's put a lot of money into this pot already. Generally, once you 4-bet, you're pot committed. If he was going to fold to a 5-bet, he would have been better off calling the 3-bet and seeing a flop.
Of course I'm gonna bet. I had top pair with a big kicker, just like last time against him.
Wow.
Russ folds.
Did you lay down kings? No. Ace king?
Tony's even more annoying when he's right. And Jason Mercier keeps adding to his stack. Through 93 hands, Jason has taken down the most pots pre-flop, and he's seen the least amount of total flops. That means that Jason's not playing a ton of hands, but when he does, he's applying the pressure early.
Maybe that's how he's made over 180 grand.
Just to me, it looks like Phil's only thinking one step at a time. It's not like playing that hand out. You're not a one-step man, are you, Phil? I'm surprised. Like, when you went for chips to count how many do I have left, that was weird. Asking what he had, that wouldn't even come up.
Russ raises.
Yeah, it was really weird to ask him to induce action and make him look around and do all that so I could get a better read. That was weird.
Yeah, but you said
Weird
you
to
didn't know. You
someone
didn't
like
get a read in there.
You're not a player, kid.
I'm not
You're
saying
a
I'm a player.
businessman.
Yeah.
If you don't understand my tactics, doesn't mean they're not good tactics.
Ike calls.
All right, I'm steaming. Pot it.
At least Phil's honest. He raises to 7,200.
Russ just got caught steam raising after that last tough laydown.
He folds.
Ike's got a suited one gapper in position, and he's closing the action.
Add all that up, and Ike calls. The flop. Ace, 9, 8, 2 diamonds. Bottom pair for Ike.
Phil's completely whiffed.
And checks.
Ike's got bottom pair, but he might like it since Phil was nice enough to announce that he was steaming at the top of the hand.
No, Haxton just checks.
Little pot control, maybe.
6 of spades on the turn. Phil fires 12 grand.
It's a pretty good turn card for Ike. He picks up a gut shot.
Don't worry, I'll probably lay it down again.
Phil's lack of inner monologue might prove costly.
Ike calls. The river. Jack of diamonds.
Check.
Phil checks.
This is a bad card for Ike. I don't see him betting fourth pair for value. If he's not checking behind for a cheap showdown right away, he's trying to decide if he should try to bluff the river. We know Phil can't call much.
Haxton bets 18,000.
At this point, Phil can't even beat Ike's bluff.
What a nice game this is. Cold deck me and cold deck me and cold deck me, and I never win a flip.
Phil
Could
folds.
win. What did you have? You might win the hand.
Do you think I might have bluffed him this time?
Yes. I think you bluffed him this time. Absolutely. That was such a scare card. I bet you bluffed him.
I got
bet you had
500
nothing.
last time.
He has to have me beat in order to. I mean, I have to have him beat in order
You had
for him to
absolutely
bluff
nothing
me.
that
So,
hand.
Absolutely nothing?
Or you might have had a 6.
What qualifies as that?
Anything below a 6. You can't beat a 6. A reasonable 6.
I can just be the 6.
he had pocket sevens, which I can't even beat. So
Fair enough. It was a good laydown again.
I had king queen.
Much more badgering from Tony, and that Phil's going to need Dr. Phil. We're back after this. Welcome back to Las Vegas, Nevada, home of the big game. You can find stats from this table, bonus hands, and clips deemed too hot for TV on the website.
I don't know how much more I can take. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Not much
I'm glad you're having fun, Tony.
I'm not. I mean, like, don't be upset at me. I'm just being my normal way, and you are as well.
You really are
We're both
being your normal way. You're right about that.
I'm at my brutal worst, unfortunately, but it's fun.
Mercier calls Tony's raise. Phil's in. King, queen for the cannon, who calls.
Enjoy the ride. It's out of your control now, anyway. Phil. Main thing is don't start crying.
My control. I get these max raises in with king queen, and I get called by queen jack or whatever the hell he had.
Check, check to Tony.
Hands are not supposed to play. They play against me.
That's 5,000.
Why? Who knows? They think I have nothing or something. I don't know what they're thinking.
You said it was a steam raise. Am I not supposed to believe you?
Tony G takes it down by firing at the flop, and he fires off a few more shots at Phil.
You're playing your A game, Phil. That's what counts. The results don't really matter. They speak for themselves.
Well, right now, Phil can't even stand to look at the results, which look like this. The young guns are at the top and the only two in the profits. At the bottom of the totem pole, it's Phil and Antonio holding his own, and only 5 grand in the red is our loose cannon.
We're almost 2/3 of the way through the session, so Russ might want to start thinking about ratcheting things up a bit. Phil Hellmuth started off the week well and was off to an early lead, and the fact that it's all slipped away has got him tilting worse than a pinball machine on the Titanic.
I do love you, though, Phil.
I can see that. There's a lot of love between you and
No,
Phil.
I really do love him. I mean,
Are you guys
honestly.
going to dinner tonight?
I would love to go to dinner.
Why, so you can berate him over what he orders? Who orders a burger? Bubba Gump, Phil.
Phil calls. Antonio's in.
See, that's why he's even calling. He's not even raising anymore.
King, queen for Tony.
I'll raise it.
Raises to 1900.
Just to build a pot for Phil.
Phil calls.
Limp calling wasn't so bad there. Phil's got the right odds.
Antonio's out, so 2 to the flop. These good chums. Jack 8 king. Top pair for Tony. He bets 3,500. Phil raises to 10,000.
Ill-timed steam bet.
Only about 29 left.
All right.
Tony re-raises all in.
You got me. In the bin.
And Phil folds.
You can choose one card if you want. This is brutal, Phil.
I choose this one.
You want it? No, let Phil decide. Let him choose.
Phil doesn't care.
This is a brutal one.
All right, let's go. Next
Oh,
one.
let's go. Don't abuse the guy. It's ridiculous.
I love when Tony G says, don't abuse him.
Well, Phil may not have liked the result of that hand, but it's because he picked a heck of a time to stop folding to continuation bets. As we can see from this stat, Phil has been folding to C bets 75% of the time. Also, Phil chose to make a stand here by committing a quarter of his meager stack. Even if Tony had had a weaker hand, he may have put the same pressure on Phil for every last dollar.
He just threw 10,000 away now.
No, Tony, I limp with a... Never mind.
Do the hands really matter in the end?
They do matter.
I mean, that was total capitulation.
If I'm in there like with nothing, that's one thing, but I'm in there with a hand every time.
But
so.
that was total capitulation, you have to admit. And I picked up on it.
Total capitulation, Tony?
Like the 10,000 he threw in, he knew it's like...
Really? I just knew it, huh?
No, just giving up.
Just giving up. Knowing when you're defeated, you're crushed. Yeah.
Phil raised to 2,000.
And not caring anymore.
I didn't know there was going to be a vocabulary test. I was ill-prepared.
Antonio re-raises.
Antonio has the best hand, and he's putting the pressure on Phil. His king-jack is live, but it's a hand that could easily be dominated. Capitulation would be fine here.
And so would folding. Well, Antonio starts the slow climb out of his hole, and it looks like Phil just wants to crawl in one.
Tony, can you pick it back up again?
I think we've done enough.
Welcome back to the big game in Las Vegas. He is Joe Stapleton. I am Chris Rose. This week's loose cannon is Russ Harlow, and he's in the poker game of his life. He's holding his own. He's got 50 hands left to try and turn a profit from the original 100 grand he was staked.
Directly across from Russ, Phil Hellmuth has not only had to watch his chips disappear, but then he's had to hear about it from Tony G.
You don't want the Tony G wrath on you, that's for sure.
Antonio raises to 1,200 with ace-10. Tony folds. Ike, Oot.
Happens every time to him when we play. Every time he gets devastated.
Phil calls.
Must be unlucky.
Yeah, it's bizarre because of how well he plays.
Yeah. What are the odds of that? It's like winning a lottery ticket.
Antonio's got Phil dominated.
Ace-Jack 5. Middle pair for Phil, who checks. Antonio, top pair, fires 2,100.
Not a great flop for Phil. He's beat, but second pair may keep him around.
It does. The turn. The deuce of hearts. Phil checks.
I don't think that deuce will really scare Antonio. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen someone look so comfortable at a poker table. He looks like a Lacoste ad.
Antonio fires 5,200.
Now, it might be tough for Phil to come to terms with the fact that he's beat yet again. But Antonio's been repping an ace since jump.
Phil's got a tough decision to make, but I'm sure at least he's enjoying the silence. He folds. And Antonio rakes in a few chips. It's Tony G who's been leaving verbal tread marks all over Phil, but Hellmuth might still be feeling the heat of his previous clash with Ike Haxton. In that hand, Phil was feeling pressure of some unconventional betting from Ike, who gives us his side as we go behind the poker face.
Leading up to this hand, Phil was just starting to get a little steamed up. He'd given back all of his earlier winnings and then a little bit, and he opened an early position to full pot, which is what he'd mostly been doing. Tony called out the small blind. I had 4-3 suited in the big blind, and I called as well. The flop came 9-3-3 with 2 hearts, and I was just trying to set him up to hopefully get paid off when I actually had it in a big pot. So when I flopped the trips, I decided I'd lead out right away. If I check, I think Phil's gonna make a continuation bet a decent amount of the time, but it's gonna check back a lot too. And it's a board that doesn't hit much, and there is a flush draw, so leading out looks pretty weak. And I expected that either he or Tony would at least put me to a bit of a test, maybe put in a bluff raise or call a couple streets or something, and I'd have a decent shot at just barreling off my whole stack and getting called by one pair. So when the turn came relatively safe, I decided to stick with the plan, and I overbet right there to set up about a pot-sized river shove. Phil called again. I thought that there was a chance I was beat. I don't think he necessarily plays 9s full or ace-3 any different, but I was still very confident I had the best hand going into the river. The 10 was a perfectly safe card, and I followed through with the shove. Phil characteristically thought about it for about half an hour.
God, every time I get ready to fold, I think you're going to show me a bluff.
And eventually ended up folding. I'm not sure quite what convinced him. I think he was probably right to conclude that I wasn't going to run a big bluff against him at that point. It seemed like a situation where he was likely to make a big, possibly bad call, and it would be kind of suicidal to bluff him. So I think he actually ended up making a good read on the river to get away there. I don't think I would take that line as a bluff against him right at that moment.
Phil did make a good fold, had king 9.
Looks like Amanda's on her way over to give her condolences.
Came to give you a good luck hug.
Thank you, girl.
I love Phil.
We all love Phil. I mean,
Everybody
people love
loves
You
him.
don't
Amanda.
act like it, and you need to start.
Come on, we're
Now this I like, right?
is love.
This is good. Thank you. Give me a hug, you. See, this I like.
Not more than him, Amanda. Where's my hug? You know?
Next time.
You don't get abused
You
like
didn't,
I get
like
abused.
you haven't busted and you've got money, so it can't be that bad. I mean, you were lucky. But it was against Phil.
Antonio raises.
I wouldn't complain if
Tony folds.
you win against me, I wouldn't complain. And Phil didn't complain much. He was fine.
Phil calls.
I check, Antonio.
Phil checked in the dark. Jack 6-8.
That's genius. Like, you already know.
Antonio missed pretty hard. Let's see if he c-bets.
He does, 2,200. Phil calls.
Imagine you like check, call, dark.
Check it.
Phil checks again. It's a deuce.
Phil's actually got the best hand for once.
Yeah, dark play needs to be taken to a new level.
Like, you say I'm checking, but whatever you bet,
I'm calling.
I'm like all in calling, but only calling.
We got the two old guys from the Muppet Show over there.
Just put any amount in, and we're good to go.
Antonio bets 6,300.
I have a bad feeling I think you have me this time, Antonio. But I don't think I can fold.
Phil's giving away a lot of information about his hand. I guess it won't matter if he does fold.
I like the way you play, Antonio. You bet every street against me, and now you're going to force me to move all in here weak.
Phil's lucky Antonio's weaker.
All right, I'm all in.
Phil shoves.
Antonio's got to have a pretty good idea that ace-7 is no good.
Okay, this is good. I do have the best hand.
That seems to have quieted Beavis and Butthead.
Antonio folds.
Ah, righty.
Welcome back, Mr. Hellmuth.
Phil cracks a smile, but despite winning 10 grand on that hand, he's still on the wrong side of even. Can he turn it around? And more importantly, turn on Tony's mute button? Find out next. Welcome back to the big game from Las Vegas. there's over $1 million in chips on the table. Our loose cannon, Russ Harlow, stuck over $11,000, Joe.
And he's down to his last 44 hands to try to get up over his original 100,000.
Antonio, UTG, just limps in with ace-jack. Tony folds. 10-9 for Ike Haxton. Ike deliberates and then folds. Jason calls from the button.
Loose call from Jason, but it is limped.
Phil's in, and so's the cannon.
With all those sevens blocking each other, Antonio is the clear favorite.
9-6-8.
Everyone but Antonio flops an up and down straight draw.
Hellmuth checks, Harlow checks, Esfandiari checks.
Jason has flopped huge with top pair to go with his straight draw.
And fires 1,200. Hellmuth calls.
Russ has the best draw, which gives him incredible implied odds for hitting the 10.
Russ is in. Antonio's out. So he lost one from the flop to the turn, which is the tray of diamonds. Phil checks. Harlow checks.
And while Phil and Russ both missed their draws, Jason's got trusty top pair to fall back on.
Mercier bets 3,800. That gets Phil out of here.
Russ still with an up and down draw.
He calls.
Not a bad call. Wants to see one more card.
The river, the queen of hearts.
Russ is completely whiffed. One would expect he'd just shut it down now and check.
No, he fires $8,000.
This bet looks mighty strong coming from a guy who makes donut runs for a living.
I don't know what I'm thinking.
Jason lays down the best hand. And a nice pot won by the man who drives a bakery delivery truck.
And he shows the bluff.
Bluffy.
What do you have now?
The bakery runner runs a sick bluff.
Close to 100.
Russ needs more than 100 or he's going home. That's why these guys know he's got to gamble up.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's really sick, isn't
So
it?
cool. But like, can't wait till there's like 10 hands left and he's got 90K in front of him.
It would be
you
a
know?
good time to pick up a big pair.
For sure.
Action on Tony, who folds.
Good time to win the hands.
Ike's out. Jason raises to 1,500.
Phil's in position and knows Jason's button range is pretty wide.
5,000.
Phil raises to $5,000. King, queen for the cannon.
I fold.
No shame in folding that to a raise and a re-raise.
So now back on over to the original raiser. And Jason folds.
Damn it.
Well, Phil's had a lot of luck with pocket nines over the years. Won his first bracelet with him. But he doesn't get any action there, Joe.
Phil takes that one down with a 3-bet, and as we can see here, Hellmuth has by far been the leader when it comes to 3-betting through our first 108 hands. We'll see if that strategy helps Phil turn things around tonight, because he's still down 65 dimes.
I 3-bet everybody at the table light multiple times. So what?
You did it. You ran through us, unfortunately.
So what? I'm still losing 60 or whatever it is. Doesn't matter, right?
Probably bluffed me off a decent hand at least once.
It's what people see.
For sure, I bluffed you a couple times.
People will say that they only watch the one show and they'll think you're a legend.
I know.
Harlow raises with ace-king.
Actually, you're going to be kind of freaked out when they watch the first show where I bluffed like 15 hands. They'll be a little freaked out.
Action folds over to Mercier with jacks. Calls. Phil's in too.
Phil's made a loose call, and Jason's just called with jacks because he's out of position.
8-6 deuce. Mercier checks, still with the best hand.
Phil's caught a piece, and that's not going to be good for business.
45.
Makes it 4,500 with middle pair.
It's a pretty big bet.
Harlow folds.
With no overcards out there, this is a great board for jacks. Jason's hand is disguised since he just called pre-flop. Looks like he's cutting out a raise.
He does to 60 grand.
That puts Phil all in. Jason's decided he doesn't want to mess around. He's taking all the guesswork out of it and putting Phil to the test right now. Phil can't really like this for him to even think about making this call. He's basically got to put Jason on some kind of draw. Even if Jason is drawing, he's likely to have 2 overs to go with it, which doesn't give Phil a ton of equity.
Well, let's see. You didn't ship with ace-deuce, so it was just too weak of a play. You might have shipped with 6-7. Why would you just give me like 40,000? Because you're super aggressive. 7-9. You could have a straight draw. I guess you're supposed to have this beat.
Phil folds, and Jason is up now 178 grand.
I didn't see what he had.
I had a big 6. Might have had you dominate.
Can Phil keep his composure? Find out when we come back on the big game. Welcome back to the big game in Las Vegas. Action on the Magician. And for his next trick, he's going to stand and fold. Amazing! Tony's out.
Never reveals his secret.
Ike folds. Jason, 9 tray suited on the button, raises to 1,500.
There's that wide button range I'm always yapping about.
Phil calls. The cannon folds.
Calling raises out of position with king deuce isn't exactly the way to get even.
Deuce 5 queen, 2 spades on the flop. Phil checks bottom pair.
I'm guessing Jason wasn't expecting to flop huge with this hand, so let's see if he keeps the pressure on.
He does, firing 2,600.
Phil called with king deuce and flopped the best hand with it. Let's see if he can take any heat.
He calls. The turn, ace of hearts. Phil checks.
Jason gonna keep going?
Nope, he checks. 6 of diamonds on the river. Phil's hand still best. Check, check.
Deuce.
Good.
And Phil takes it down.
It's a little strange that Jason just gave up after raising and then continuing light. Must have realized Phil may not be in the folding mood.
Well, despite that win, Phil is still stuck over 64 grand.
Refreshing. Now you're showing. Now you're playing. Calling. That's your usual game, Phil. That's steady, consistent.
He'll get all the money in the end.
Yeah, playing that for sure.
For sure. It's Phil Hellmuth.
Just needs to run good. He's due for some
I
luck.
don't need to run good, Tony.
No.
Wait till you see the
Well, you
video.
do with king
you have
deuce.
no idea because you guys all you think is because you've watched me and all you think is I have this one slow gear. You have no idea. But you must suspect something because I've won 11 bracelets in Hold'em and I made it deep in all these tournaments this year. You must know something. You must know that I've been putting in 4 and 5 bets with
I know
nothing.
that you're a great player.
You must know that today. I mean, but you wouldn't even believe it until you see it.
Tony calls Jason's raise.
Because you guys never see that.
Us today. I mean, you destroyed us.
Because when I played against Antonio, I committed to waiting for a hand, and I looked ridiculous waiting 30
If you were not
rounds.
unlucky, you would have got all the money as well.
That was fun.
It was fun for you.
Tony checks. Jason still best.
Once I went down that stubborn path of waiting for ace high or, king high.
Jason C-bet gets it done.
I didn't realize that I could pick up 60 hands and only pick it up once or whatever.
Meanwhile, Russ counting his chips and realizing he's about 7 grand shy of turning a profit, and time is running out.
We're all waiting for those last like 15 hands. You got to keep a tight count then too.
I'm waiting for you to put 500,000 on the table and take me on.
Tony won't take anyone on this hand.
I'm not afraid of you.
I know you're not afraid. That's why you do it. Do it to me.
Haxton raises to 1,500. Mercier, ace-jack. Calls. Fills in.
Whee!
King-9 for the cannon. Whee! It's gone.
No one should be afraid of me, that's for sure.
Just saying, the game gets interesting when there's about 15 hands left.
It's going to be exciting.
5-8-6. Haxton.
Ike's got a gut shot to the nuts.
Checks.
Jason's got the best hand with ace high.
And checks.
Phil's also got the same gut shot to the nuts.
And bets 3,200.
He and Ike both have overs as well, but making a pair would mean a 4-card straight out there.
Ike repops to 9,200. That gets Jason out of the way.
Ike is just check raised, semi-bluffed.
Phil calls.
Adventurous quick call from Phil. He's got a gut shot, but his 9 and 10 outs are dirty.
Ace on the turn would have given Jason top pair.
That's why I always cover my eyes after I fold.
Action on Ike.
Let's see if he decides to try to rep this ace.
Nope, he checks.
Now the 50-50 you see in this case means if we get to showdown, these two are guaranteed to chop. That's if it gets there. Let's see if Phil decides to get aggressive and try to take it down right here.
Nope, he checks. The jack of clubs would have given Jason two pair.
Both players have rivered an open-ended draw. And both guys have only got nothing but 10 high. I'm sure Ike thinks he's got no shot to win this if he checks.
He bets 50 grand.
So sick. So sick. I can't believe I checked the turn here. I mean, if he checks, I can bluff. But I can't call him with 10 high.
Phil folds.
You could.
I had the nut 10 high, so probably not.
Ace jack beat.
You did? 10-9.
Ike put Phil in an impossible spot.
Chop is the best.
Did I have ace jack beat?
Yeah. Top two? No. Didn't think so.
How can he have anything? He checked the turn. It looked like I could have just won it right there. I should have shipped it.
You didn't have the heart and commitment to pull it.
Beat me to it. I was going to say that.
You kind of wanted him to win the pot. You wanted him.
Wow. God, you. Unbelievable.
Phil leads the world in being treated like a human piñata, but at the big game, his chip stack has been itty-bitty. Jason Mercier remains the cash cow.
But the real story is loose cannon Russ Harlow, who has only 30 hands left to try to get up over 100K, or he's going home with nada.
All right, guys, it's that time again. Russ, you're still hanging in there.
Yeah, I'm going to see what I can do in the
One more night
last
to go.
segment. That's right.
Think you can do this?
I have no other choice, do I?
You have to.
That's right.
Phil, you're still hanging in there. I think it was that good luck hug.
Yep.
You bring him luck.
That's all it gives me. Yep. All right, guys, that's it. I'm Amanda Leatherman saying goodbye for now. And remember, if you've got the cash and the guts, there's always a seat open at the big game. Good night, everybody.
For Joe Stapleton, I'm Chris Rose. Next time on the big game, the loose cannon's running out of time.
It would be a good time to pick up a big pair.
Can Russ rebound and get out of the red?
You're a professional player playing against the loose cannon.
Can you just shut the up? Call a floor man.
It's a wild ending tomorrow night on the big game. The preceding was a presentation from PokerStars.com.